We've just come back from SummerSlam, the first ever 2 nights. There's more to talk about than just the 2 nights and what happened over the 2 nights. Let's get into it. This is WrstlXtra. Yo. This is a WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate, joined by my trios team. It's special. It's SummerSlam review. We've got Mex, the WrestleManiac, if you will. Yeah. And of course, the Oracle. Say his name, he shall appear. It is the professor, that is Gerard Bonner. 2 nights SummerSlam. My first question is, did it need 2 nights?
I would say that this particular SummerSlam didn't need 2 nights. They didn't bill it in like 2 nights means it's WrestleMania level excitement. You know, you promote the show like it is. You've got those level of stories that you're kind of blowing off and culminating. So this show didn't need 2 nights, I would say. But they can do this better and get it to a point where it definitely is a 2-night affair. But on this occasion, I don't think they quite did that.
Gerard, your thoughts on that?
It's interesting. I feel like they could have taken 2 or 3 matches from night 1, put it on to night 2, and that could have been our SummerSlam. I'm not sure that this needed 2 nights specifically. I think they tried to make good use of the 2 nights. I think there were some things that probably could have been resolved on Raw or SmackDown, but I definitely think that both nights ended in significant ways to make us remember them. But I definitely think they could have condensed it and compiled it into one night.
Let's talk about the endings, as I like to call the event, not SummerSlam, but Summer Shock, because they made sure both nights ended in big, massive shocks. You know, we know Triple H to kind of be that guy who loves a moment. He made sure that happened. Let's talk about the first night, the less controversial one, of Seth Rollins cashing in on CM Punk. Gerard, what were your thoughts when you heard Seth's music play, then saw him come out on the crutches? What was your initial thought at that moment?
You know, it's kind of funny. My thoughts did a few things. When I heard the music, I was like, no way. Then when he came out on the crutches, I was like, okay, he's just giving us a reminder that, hey, he's still in the picture. We got a ways to go. And at some point, you know, when he gets better, he will cash in. So I was sold on that. I was completely sold on that. You know, he turns around, walks up the ramp, and even him walking up the ramp didn't alarm me until he stopped. And when he stopped and he threw the crutches to the side, Seth Rollins is special. You know, when you think about cash-ins and ways to cash in, you know, the measuring stick for a cash-in still very much so is what he did at WrestleMania several years ago, 10 years ago. So how do you top that? And, you know, he took us literally from thinking he might not cash in at all because of how damaged he is to, my God, you're going to throw the crutches and take the brace and then run. Like it took my brain through a lot of spaces, man. It was brilliantly executed. But yeah, he had me hook, line, and sinker.
I remember a while ago, not too long ago, when R-Truth was his contract ran out and he left the company, and then a few days later he came back, and there was this whole thing of, you know, oh, was it all part of the plan, and, you know, lying to the staff is wrong and immoral. What's different here with Rollins being injured, you know, putting everything out on the socials? Even Becky posted him on crutches, playing with their daughter, all this kind of stuff, and then bang, he's not injured, absolutely fine. Mex, what's different here?
I think, well, the difference is that this is a work. And obviously, the upper management and stuff knew, you know, with R-Truth, that was very much, no, you were ending your contract. Well, we're not renewing your contract. And through public demand and staff demand, we're bringing you back. Obviously, who needed to know here knew that this was going to be the situation. He obviously said on Raw, Becky was in on it. The Oracle, Paul Heyman was in on it. Obviously, Triple H and team would have known. But it seems like generally that was it, because he delivered an interview. If you guys saw this, where he said he went to the gym on crutches. He took his daughter to the beach on crutches. He went to dinner with Montez Ford and Bianca Belair on crutches. He played this to let people know like this is the real deal. I'm not faking it, sort of thing. Until he was. But yeah, it's just a case of, you know, trying. It's keeping that magic alive. We've literally just had WWE Unreal, which you know unveils the magic ultimately. So where you see someone committed to the cause to keep the magic alive like this, you can't help but applaud it. And I know many circles of the internet saw this coming and thought, yeah, it's not. People were very skeptical anyway. But like you said, Gerard, in terms of the execution of it all, you see him come out. You're like, I knew it. Then he comes out on crutches, and then you calm down. You're like, okay, he is still injured. Then he walks up the ramp, and then you see him stop. Like, and again, I don't want to compare him, but there's a level of like, I think he has like a level of like, I don't know what to call it, Messiah syndrome inside him, where there's something uncanny about him and doing things that's like almost biblical in some spaces, and just dropping the crutches or like, oh, you know, Lazarus, you can walk again, or whatever the case is. Like, it's just brilliant in how he always finds a way. And like Gerard said again, it's like he knows he's got the best cash in of all time. He has to find a way to either do something completely left field or to one up it. And you know, I wouldn't say this is better than WrestleMania 31 10 years ago, but this is number 2 cash-in ever for me personally. Like it's so far left field different that it's definitely up there.
I said this just before we came on air, and I think I'll say it again, or ask to see if you guys think the same thing. But with the moments that Seth has created over his career, with the consistency, he's never been away. I think it's only been 6 months in the whole time he's been with WWE. I think it was only 6 months he's been in like completely inactive. Is it fair to say that of the last maybe 20 years, I think maybe 20 years, that Seth Rollins is one of the best wrestlers in WWE?
Oh, I think that's a foregone conclusion. One of the best. There's the argument, you know, you have to, if you're talking top 3 right now, you over the last decade, you have to include him, and he's very, very high. He's probably 1 or 2 for his consistency, for his follow through. And I mean, what he pulled off with this was 80s level dedication. You know, this was the type of thing you hear stories about when, you know, someone was supposed to be blind, and so they went to the store blind, and they walked around the house blind, like they went outside to take the garbage blind. Like, it was that level of dedication, which is so different from what we see from today's wrestler. You know, today's wrestler has to get on social media and put their birth name in their profile so that you don't confuse them with their character, right? Like it's not a level of dedication that says, okay, we believe this. And so I think you take that coupled to his with his dedication to WWE. I mean, the whole reason we have this fight with him and CM Punk is because he has been pro WWE all this time. When CM Punk left and trashed WWE, Seth was waving the flag. You know, when Punk went over to AEW, here it is. Rollins is waving the flag. So for Rollins, he has very much been your company guy. Honestly, this is the same kind of dedication we saw from Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker in the Attitude Era. I mean, when everybody else was willing to jump to WCW, they were not. They had the offers and they chose to stay. I think that's what we're seeing with Seth Rollins. And so for the lineage of this World Heavyweight Championship to start with him and to now come back to him, and now we have a space where you have Roman chasing him instead of him chasing Roman. Oh yeah, we have turned the page on this. And I think, you know, as they talk about this decade and this era, the conversation will be, and you know, before it's over, I don't know if it'll be Roman, Seth 1 and 2 or vice versa, but those are your top two guys.
By far. Let's move our attention to what happened on night 2. We saw, of course, the passing of the torch between John Cena and Cody Rhodes. Fantastic match between the two. Super Cena, Super Cody. We saw it all. We thought that was the end of it. Cena, you know, having his moment in the ring, and then Mex, I'm gonna let you take this one and share your thoughts on what then transpired after this.
And then WWE showed the world that they have a questionable moral compass. That's what I think. Like, obviously, there's a whole argument. Brock Lesnar, the character, is just who we get on TV. And I won't lie, like, when his music hits, I went, what? Like, I popped in that sense, right? And it's very much because, like, anytime I hear Brock Lesnar's music, I pop, just because of who Brock Lesnar is, what he represents in this business. So it could be him having a week after week run on TV, and we see him, not a thing about him returning. I will still pop when I hear that music because it's sinister, and you just know, like, as they say, business is about to pick up. So I popped until I realized, they brought back this guy in the middle of this whole situation, which isn't resolved. And then I thought to myself, and I said in our Discord that, well, he hasn't been named. Maybe I'm trying to rationale with WWE. I'm thinking, well, they haven't named him in this whole thing, right? So maybe that's why WWE are bringing him back. Until I said it in the Discord, and I was told, no, Mex, he's actually been named at this point. Before, it was just the UFC and WWE champion, and we all said, you know, 2 + 2 = 4. That's Brock Lesnar. But at this point, he's actually been named. Now, obviously, the whole case isn't against him, but he's actually been named in it. So it just baffles me that they would do something like that, right? 2024, they wanted to bring him back then. They wanted to put him in the Rumble. I remember reports saying that the idea was for Dominic Mysterio to eliminate him. Dominic Mysterio and him were then meant to have an Elimination Chamber match. At Elimination Chamber, sorry. And then obviously the plan was for him and Gunther to have a WrestleMania match when Gunther was IC champion. That eventually went to Sami Zayn. So it's like, what's weird to me is that you didn't want to bring him back when he wasn't actually named, but now he's been named. You think it's fitting, and Triple H comes and says John Cena wanted him as part of the retirement tour. I really just think we're getting into a dangerous space where we are prepared to mortgage the company on moments. Like, you know, the whole Cena turning face the night before or on SmackDown, I just thought was an absolute joke. It's like literally going to, you know, finish hoovering up and you go into the socket and you just pull out the plug. Like, I'm done with this. I'm just pulling out the plug. It's over, sort of thing. And then, you know, what was such a brilliant match. I'm not one to care about Meltzer ratings, but I'm sure Meltzer's going to give that a 5-star rating. Like, what was a brilliant match. And almost, I said this on Twitter, like, it felt like Cena could have retired right here. Like, it was such a brilliant moment as well following the match. You felt it was right to just bring this guy out. And like I said, I've been a Lesnar fan. Like, this guy, I think he brings so much legitimacy to this sport. Like, it's just so entertaining, him just absolutely destroying guys. But it just baffles me. You guys do this. The case is still ongoing. You know, people are being affected by this. They said they've done their own kind of internal legal search and investigation, sorry, and he was innocent, or they could put him back on TV, whatever it is. It's like you've just had WWE Evolution. Do you think about how this maybe makes the women in your company feel? Yeah, I could ramble on about this. I just really think it's morally questionable for them to do this, like even innocent or not. And there's other guys that we've seen their names been cleared from stuff they've done, or nothing's ever been found, but you haven't brought them back. So this is just because he's a big name, a draw. Like, again, it's business. Business always prevails. If one of their sponsors said, we don't want to be affiliated with you lot because you're bringing back Lesnar, they would probably cut him. But because that's not the case, he gets a second chance. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's just morally very, very questionable.
And, you know, on my side, I understand the whole business side of it. Him being a draw, him being big business, all the rest of it. I guess for me, it is that double standard of others have not been brought back. Others have been in a similar position in terms of being, you know, alleged or whatever else. And even some acquitted, or things have been settled, or things have been found out to be literally a lie, and yet not been brought back. No kind of, you know, sorry or anything like that. Just boom, okay, over and off. Whereas this, it's like, he's here. Gerard, do you think it's a worry that the focus is business and not the morality?
Well, you know, this is the tricky part. The tricky part is pro wrestling, entertainment, sport rarely lead with the concept of morality. I'm not saying right or wrong here. I'm just saying that many of them don't lead with morality. They lead with business, they lead with legality, but they don't lead with morality. We've seen a number of things that would be questionable from a moral social construct. For instance, you know, just over the weekend, the pictures of Triple H at the White House, you know, and all of that, considering that WWE specifically chose not to do anything political over these last 8 years because of the level of controversy connected to Donald Trump. Yet this ends up being the first time that Donald Trump ends up on our televisions in the WWE. And one could make the argument, well, you know, it's the WWE getting an opportunity to be involved in a national presidential kind of moment, which I suppose any company would think that. But from a morality perspective, there are teams who won championships who earned the right to go to the White House that refused because of some of those things. So I say all of that to say that morality, when it comes to entertainment in sports, is not necessarily something they lead with. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. And so I think this is where people ultimately end up making their choices, right? Like, people decide, do I want to participate or connect with a certain thing based on whether or not they reflect the moral compass that I may reflect. It's interesting. It ends up becoming a personal decision. And unfortunately, we have seen, I think, so many spaces in entertainment have to deal with this challenge, I think, ever since the Me Too movement started, where people are now having to ask themselves, okay, what do I think about names like R. Kelly? What do I think about names like Bill Cosby? What do I think about, you know, these names and these entities whose character might be known for one thing and the person is known for something? I mean, we're just dealing with this with Hulk Hogan last week, right? You know, like, how do you remember Hulk Hogan? I think this is a very unique juxtaposition that we're in, which is reflective of the society that we live in. Do you where do you draw your own individual lines? And I think that's just where it is. It becomes a point of individual lines. Do you stop supporting WWE? Do you turn the TV off when Brock Lesnar shows up? Do you like where and I don't necessarily have the answer to that other than to say I don't think it's a one size fits all. I do think it is a question of where your moral compass is and what works for you. You know, it's we didn't discuss it last week, but it's the Hulk Hogan conversation, right? Like, do you, you know, for those who grew up with Hulk Hogan as their wrestling childhood hero, he represents one thing. For those of us who are people of color, he represents something else. And if you happen to be a person of color who knew Hulk Hogan as your hero as a kid, it puts you in a really tricky space. So I think we're now having to deal with a lot more of that. And I think the Brock Lesnar question fits right into that category. And that makes it challenging all across society with everything, unfortunately.
What's crazy? You mentioned the whole Hulk Hogan situation, and even with this, there are similarities in the sense where, you know, as we do what we do, we know the ins and outs and all the details, and you know all the stuff that we look into and research and whatnot. It's amazing to me the amount of friends that messaged me pictures, videos, whatever it was, announcements of when Hogan passed away, and I'm like, so what? You like don't know that he's racist? Like, why are you like upset? Most 90% had no clue whatsoever. No clue whatsoever. And so the reason why I say it's kind of similar to this is in the sense of this whole business thing where Brock Lesnar's still gonna be big business regardless.
Sure. And to
most
your
of the
point,
people that are watching, go on.
Yeah, no. I think you were about to say it, is that many of the people that are watching may not even be aware
No
of
idea.
these intricacies connected to Brock Lesnar. I think this is the other challenge of the internet wrestling community versus the rest of the world, right? Like we don't realize, as significant of a space as we take up, that's still not the bulk of the average wrestling fan. The average wrestling fan doesn't do the kind of research that we do. The average wrestling fan isn't sitting up paying attention to this kind of thing. So they're just like, holy cow, Brock Lesnar is back. Meanwhile, if you hear Michael Cole's guttural response, his response is what many people, I think, were thinking, but couldn't say. And he said it. And in that statement, he said a lot. So I think, again, that's the other challenging thing. It's, you know, how much do the people know? And will that information change how they feel or not? And if they don't know, do we educate them? I'll tell you this. I think there was a statement on Raw made last night where Michael Cole talked about an interview he did with Nick Khan and Triple H. Right? Which to me, I thought we were going to see that. I mean, Nick Khan, Triple H, that's definitely TV worthy. But that, I think, was the attempt to address the concerns that are happening throughout the internet and in the news spaces. It's interesting. You have to appease both of these crowds. How you do that is tricky. Now, the real question I have is, what kind of contract does Brock Lesnar have right now? How long are we going to see him? Is this just just during the John Cena farewell tour? There are people that are saying his retirement match will be at SummerSlam next year in his native Minneapolis. Like, I don't know,
Wow.
So that, to me, that is the question, because on one hand, you have Brock Lesnar back. On another hand, there is no Alberto Del Rio, right? So this is where it's tough to figure out, what is the driver behind this? Is it the thought that Alberto Del Rio perhaps isn't as big of a moneymaker as Brock Lesnar? I don't know that anybody would argue the two, but I think there could be, some might think that there's some worth in Del Rio, considering, after all, he was the champion over at AAA when they purchased AAA. So this is the challenge of 2025 and where we are right now. And unfortunately, or fortunately, these are the realities we now have to deal with in a very, very real context.
And this is why when I've mentioned it before, when with the likes of maybe like a Tessa Blanchard, for example, I mentioned her before, where I was like, it's almost certain she's going to end up on WWE TV. But when you just compared the Del Rio and the Brock, I'm like, okay, it probably won't happen then, because we've seen they brought back Hogan, they brought back Brock. Those two are massive, massive names. Sure. Whereas a Del Rio and a Tessa, yes, they're big enough names. Yes, they can maybe draw a little bit, but nowhere near the stratosphere of a Brock or a Hogan. So it probably wouldn't happen. But I would definitely say the reason why, there is favor on Brock to Del Rio is literally the pulling power. The morals go out the window. They're not being rated on the same scale. It's a very different thing altogether, and I don't know whether that's right or wrong. I understand it. I don't know whether that's right or wrong. I'm still kind of like in two minds on the whole thing. I'm very much on the side of, and always will be, innocent before proven guilty, and not guilty before proven innocent. So that as well has me kind of like thinking, okay, is this right? Is it not? And whatnot. But we are where we are. It's going to be interesting to see the way that the fans react. Even in mentioning Tessa, you still hear every single time she's out there in TNA, she's a racist chants every single time. So whether we'll get that or anything close to that with Brock, I don't know.
Look, this is a test run. Gerard mentioned, what does his contract look like? This is a test run. They will probably do the program, because I think Cena's got 2 dates this month on SmackDown before Clash in Paris, including a date of the SmackDown before Clash in Paris. So you assume he's going to be on the Clash in Paris show, because that SmackDown is in France, I believe. So this match probably happens there at the end of the month. And if they can get through it unscathed, not too much noise, don't have to, turn down the volume on certain chants and stuff like that, then he will stick around, because there's been murmurs for a very long time about Brock Lesnar will come back. A lot of sides of fans have been like, we all knew he was going to come back. It's always just been a matter of when, which, to be honest, I can say, maybe I sound naive saying this, I didn't think he would come back. I thought, I thought he was toast. As long as Vince was toast, I thought he was toast. And if Vince got acquitted and was fine, then he would be fine as well. But I thought maybe I'm naive. I just didn't see it coming back, especially because WWE don't need him.
Right.
They
and
have
that was going to be a
draws.
question. Exactly.
Yeah, they have draws. They've moved on from him. Like I said before, I love what Brock Lesnar brings to wrestling, and I popped because that guy has given me endless entertainment since I was 12 years old. Like, but do we need him right now? Do we need to gamble the perception of the company on bringing back Brock Lesnar? Was this needed? I don't know. But at the same time, 2 things: the fans, like you said, us online are different to them people in the stadium. As long as the people in the stadium keep shouting and doing their chants like, oh my God, and whatever, once he arrives, he'll be cool. And as long as no sponsor comes and says we're pulling out from doing XYZ, or, putting 12 adverts in the middle of a PLE because of Brock Lesnar is on the show, Brock Lesnar will continue to be on WWE. And because he doesn't even wrestle often, Minneapolis could be a good place for him to retire next year, but he can keep going because he's a special attraction. Just dipping in and out when he's ready. So, yeah, it's just something that I'll say if anything, I'm just disappointed because I don't think we need him. I don't think we needed to, open this can of worms ultimately. Triple H, the cancelled press conferences. I'm sure you guys have heard me say, like, these press conferences, these post-show things are nonsense anyway. But I didn't know why they cancelled it. And it became very apparent as to why they cancelled it. It's like, I remember before, some months back, he was asked something at a press conference and kind of cowered away from answering it and stuff like that. Even the R-Truth stuff, are you enjoying the show? It's part of the show. Answer the question, man. Answer the question. Don't stop doing this. Like, answer the question. And I just feel at this point, after the events on Sunday night, I'm just a bit disappointed in we just opened up something when all I want to do is get online and speak to you guys, speak to my friends about wrestling. I don't want to have to speak about this. I'm not educated. I don't even know what's going on. Like I said, I went out there and I said, oh, he hasn't even been named. And then I was given a big ESPN report that he's been named. I don't even know this stuff. Like, and I don't care for it. And I don't want it to seep into wrestling, but here we go.
Yeah.
Let me say one other thing, and that is you were talking about the two things that really matter to the WWE. The third one is going to be that all important, while they don't listen to the IWC, their big number right now is social media views. And so the fact that they paraded that it was 75 million social views in 24 hours.
12 hours.
12 hours. I'm sorry. 12 hours. That's the move for them. Where, 20 years ago, it would have been a rating. It's that now, because that is an immediate sign that people are talking, good or bad. People are talking. And it was such a shocking moment. So to your point, I think as long as those kinds of moments happen, and think about how significant that is, given the Logan Paul moment with Jelly Roll, which was a massive moment, but that got trumped by this. So they are looking for these needle moving moments, and that happened to be one of them.
It's interesting, but we are where we are. Brock is back. We won't get into what happens next with him, or in terms of the story with Cena and Cody and whatnot. But it will be interesting to see how it all plays out. Definitely. Keeping with the whole SummerSlam, but moving on to bigger and better things. We also know and saw Naomi defend successfully against Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. A tremendous match between the three ladies. Once again, Rhea and Io doing great things in the triple threat, but coming out without championships. Naomi's next move. We know that Stephanie Vaquer is kind of waiting in the wings, but Naomi still needs to get through Io Sky next week on Raw. Gerard, what are your thoughts in terms of whether Naomi gets to Paris, or will it be Io that takes her place?
Here's where it's tricky, because they've been teasing this Io Stephanie Vaquer match since the day after WrestleMania. They've had two matches. Neither of them had conclusive endings because someone, interfered. I will say that I think that particular match is a WrestleMania match. That is not a Clash in Paris match. That is not a match for any other PLE. So with that said, and with the incredible run Naomi is on right now, it stands to make sense that one way or another, Naomi comes out of this match with Io, still the women's world champion. You put her in there against Stephanie. She beats Stephanie. And again, we got a significant reign for Naomi, because I think the thing that they didn't plan for was this groundswell of support for Naomi. I don't think that they planned for Naomi to fully commit to this proceed with caution. They figured, this would be kind of a cool move to solve the Jade problem. But instead, what they didn't realize is they created a star. This is the best we've ever seen Naomi. And we've seen Naomi really good. This is the best we've ever seen her. She's got everything you want. She's got the character. She's got the in-ring work. And, you put her on a mic, and she's dangerous on a mic now. I don't know what they're doing to improve folks like Lyra and Naomi or what have you, but it's working. So I think Naomi absolutely leaves next week as the world champion, goes to Paris, and gets the win over Stephanie Vaquer as well.
Just to add to that,
Triple H mentioned it. I'll go for it.
Sorry, I was also say, just to add to that, you can see the confidence on Naomi, and I think that's the big difference. I think last time I was here, I mentioned that obviously she's been a two-time champion before in WWE, but is very much crowd decided, crowd pushed and stuff. Like now you can see this is someone that has the trust of the office, and she's confident. She can go out there. She can toe the line in some of her promos in regards to what she's saying, language she may be using. She's towing the line. She's not crossing it, but she's there, right there, flirting with it. And you know, it's what shows like the signs of an experienced person, signs of a good heel sort of thing. I think although she is very entertaining in what she's doing, she is still maintaining she's a bad guy, you know. And we said it again, she's leveraging social media to do more than what TV gives her time for, you know, permits her to do. So yeah, I'm expecting the EO match to maybe end in a just a no contest sort of thing. I think maybe we might see Stephanie Vaquer get involved in the match. Maybe Naomi attacks Stephanie before the match, and during the match, Stephanie comes back to get her pound of flesh or something, which obviously ruins it for EO. I think maybe something like that, and then Clash. Maybe I think I've always seen at Clash, Naomi cheats to beat Stephanie, which I think is absolutely fine. Yeah, I think this has legs, like you're saying, Gerard. I think maybe they thought they could maybe keep this inside the bubble, even after giving it the championship, keep it inside the bubble of maybe Jade would eventually get back round to her if they sort out the rosters and the show and whatever. But no, she's showing that you've given me the ball, I'm keeping it and I'm running, sort of thing. So yeah, I want to see more of this. I think this could definitely have got legs for the future.
Yeah.
No, most definitely. And you know, Triple H was very, you know, praised Naomi a lot. I think it was after the on the post show or something like that. At some point after SummerSlam. And
the
you know,
show
I
that
think
he didn't want anyone on.
Basically. But I think it would be quite criminal to have her then lose to EO just in order to get EO versus Stephanie in Paris. I mean, yes, it's something that we want to see EO and Stephanie go at it again with a title on the line and all the rest of it. But I think as big as Clash in Paris can be and will be, maybe a bigger show is probably better suited for that type of scenario. I want to, you know, I think it would be great to see Naomi continue with the championship, even if she lost to Stephanie at Clash in Paris, there would still be her, you know, riding, you know, running after Stephanie straight afterwards. Like, it's not going to be she loses and then she disappears or back of the line. She's still going to be there, stalking Stephanie, maybe attacking her every chance she gets, all that kind of stuff. Just so we get the continuation of this character. And right now, I know we've all watched Unreal. We all know the way that the WWE sees Rhea Ripley. But I think right now, if we check all the boxes, Naomi checks more boxes than anyone else right now. We all the women in WWE. So I want to see it continue, especially with a championship in her hand. But here's my next question. With Naomi switching to Raw, the big surprise of her cashing in on EO, and we all kind of expected it to be at SummerSlam after Jade beats Tiffany. Do you think the reason why Jade Cargill didn't win has something to do with this decision to move Naomi to Raw?
I don't know. I never thought of that. Do you mean as in having them both as world champions at the same time?
I think the reason I'm asking is there's been a discussion about the reason why the Naomi switch kind of happened was because Liv Morgan got injured. So it's almost like there was a plan in place, but it got disrupted. And now that it's not happening, it almost feels as though, you know, WWE have either changed their mind in terms of Jade holding a championship, or whether she's ready, or whether it didn't make sense, or they've just been distracted by everything else and didn't put enough time into that or into her. Like, do you think it has any bearing on what happened for Jade, both leading up to and the match ending at SummerSlam?
I think I definitely believe that Naomi was moved to Raw to fill the place of like a top female heel in Liv Morgan's absence. I do kind of believe in that. But with Jade, I don't know. I don't really think that maybe the booking was weird because it's like you powered her up all the way until, SummerSlam, where she then lost. Tiffany, for me, this is like the run itself. They haven't necessarily made her feel any bigger than she is, but she's had a decent run, especially with Jade Cargill. Beating Jade Cargill was like, oh, like I think people probably all like, oh, like I expected Tiffany Jade to win here. So it adds like a notch in her title run for me. Maybe they begin to tell a story of Jade has to become smarter. You can't just come in here and use power moves and, beat somebody. Maybe they're telling a bit of a longer term story here. Or maybe they're doing something like, we're going back to Saudi Arabia where they just crowned her Queen of the Ring. She goes and wins the Rumble in Saudi Arabia. Like Saudi Arabia is her place, basically. And that's how she gets back to Naomi, challenges Naomi at WrestleMania for the World Championship. Maybe they're playing it that way. So, yeah, I don't know about if one affected the other sort of thing. But I guess maybe this week on SmackDown, I'll probably find out what's destined for Jade going forward.
There was a clear lack of a true build between Jade and Tiffany. Gerard, why do you think that is? And it also felt as though the match felt a little bit lazy. Something was missing.
There's a few things, I think. I think for one, this is one of the biggest stages that Jade has ever been on. So there's that. I think secondly, this is probably the least experienced opponent that Tiffany has been in the ring with. Think about the women. Tiffany beats Nia. Tiffany was in there with Charlotte. Tiffany at Evolution was in there with Trish, right? All of these are people who are very, very experienced, who can kind of help lead and guide things if Tiffany gets off track. At this point, you have two young guns in there. You don't want to give them a 20-minute scenario, right? Like if you think about the great match that we had at Evolution between Jade and Naomi, it's Jade and Naomi with Bianca as the referee. So there are, again, enough veterans that are in there that are kind of helping to right the ship. And that kind of match specifically was more of a fight. So you weren't looking for drop down, drop toe holds and all that type of stuff. But here's the piece that nobody's talking about, which I think is the underlier in all of this. Back in June, Deadline dropped an article about Jade Cargill. And Jade Cargill is actually going to be making her acting debut in a movie called True Threat. Production for that begins this fall. So if we kind of put 2 and 2 together, fall officially starts next month. You don't want to have a scenario where you have a short title reign for Jade. So we've worked Jade all up to this point. She's Queen of the Ring. Okay, you let her have this big match at SummerSlam, which I think is a test to see, can she operate again in a solo space like this? Yes, she can. She had the great entrance. People loved her, all of the things. Now, once she's done with this movie, she can come back. And now this puts us right around Royal Rumble time frame, where, again, we can now start the journey to a championship piece. So part of this, I think, deals with, and you'll remember when Jade signed with WWE, one of the things that she talked about was her clock was ticking, because part of her coming to WWE is because that was going to be the springboard for her into movies, into acting, into larger entertainment spaces. So for Jade, this is very much on par with the trajectory career-wise that she wants to make. I don't know if Jade feels like she has to be a world champion at this particular point, if acting and a major feature film is right there in her hands. So I think, not that Jade is necessarily out for the rest of the year, but certainly this fall, if she's in production, however long that's going to take, when she comes back, perhaps she wins the Royal Rumble. Maybe she wins the Elimination Chamber. That puts her in title contention, I think, for WrestleMania. And as big as this SummerSlam moment could have been, I think the whole acting situation is what made this not do what it could have done. And we now sit at a space where WrestleMania seems like a bigger kind of space to crown Jade Cargill?
And for me, I don't feel as though she should have been crowned, given the whole thing with the movie, given the whole thing of us expecting that Naomi was going to cash in on her. She was never supposed to be champion going into the next month or whatever it is. But it does feel as though that whatever happened with Naomi going over to Raw, or with Liv getting injured, and the domino effect of everything else and decisions made, that match kind of fell by the wayside a little bit, was maybe forgotten about, or they've just thought, okay, it's not going to happen the way we kind of expected or thought. We'll leave it. We'll deal with Jade when she comes back. Kind of. That's what it kind of felt like. So yeah, I don't feel. I went into SummerSlam expecting Jade to win, because we just all thought Jade was going to win because of the push and her momentum. But when you stop and think about everything, and as you said, Gerard, the whole movie thing, it's like, well, she was never supposed to go into the next week or whatever, or the next month or whatever, as a champion. So it makes sense she didn't win, but it's like, I don't know, the whole thing just felt a bit meh, And I think that for me, I'm like, it's a shame.
The build was very lackluster. Like, even the week of the go home show, they just done a little tame backstage segment on, I'm gonna take that belt, I'm gonna win it, or I didn't need your help. And it's like, it's difficult one, because they haven't had heat. Jade has won a tournament and been crowned the number one contender. So I get it's based on competition, but like, I genuinely, like we've said before, these two have been miscast, both of them. Like, they should be two heels spitting absolute fire at each other, even if Jade came to arrive at Tiffany's front door through a tournament. Like, it's the arrogance of it all. Like you're just holding that belt for me, and Tiffany could have just reeled off all the names she's beaten so far, and how quickly she's got from NXT to the main roster to champion. Like, there's a lot there for both of them to speak about, but you want to kind of portray them both as baby faces. Tiffany gets the big reactions, but as soon as the crowd have settled down from her entrance, I don't really feel like people are really kind of invested in what she says. Her performances in matches are very good, but in what she says, I don't think so. And then Jade hasn't really got many opportunities to cut promos to a live audience. People are enthralled by the spectacle of Jade Cargill, but other than that, they don't really know much about her and stuff. So yeah, I think we just need to get people into their actual characters and what they should be doing. And half of this stuff will just write itself. It'll be very easy from there.
And I think with both women, they kind of show what happens sometimes when people are fast tracked. And that's not to say I absolutely love both of them. I want to see them continue doing what they're doing and achieve great things. But sometimes when people are fast tracked, certain things are missing. So as you said, Max, sometimes the character thing, or the lack of experience in being on the mic and knowing how to work the crowd maybe a little bit, and using certain words and those little details that come with longer experience or longevity in experience. So I think that's what's happening with both of them, unfortunately. But they're even in that fast tracking, as you said, Max, they still both had so much they could have said. So much more they could have run with as well in the same breath. So it's a shame it's kind of gone the way it has. We know Jade's going to be doing this movie. Whether we see her over the next few weeks, possibly, we'll see what happens. But hopefully she'll do what she's doing in the movies, come back and win something, win some kind of championship, should I say. And we'll go from there. Speaking of championships, females winning. Head over to AEW, and Athena has done what I predicted. Thank God, someone's done it right. And actually set the date for when she wants to have her match with Toni Storm. She had an opportunity, I think at least twice, to cash in using her contract, but she said, no, I'm not doing it like that. I'm setting the date. I'm going to beat you. And she's doing it in London at the O2 Arena at Forbidden Door at the end of the month. Mex, do you think this is the right decision? Do you also think Athena walks away as the AEW Women's Champion?
I would love her to walk away as the AEW Women's Champion. And I would love for the company to shock the world, as it were, and do something like that. I don't know if they will. I won't go as far as say as they won't, but I just don't know right now if they will. But it would really mean something putting that title on her while she's still the Ring of Honor Women's Champion, and basically saving Toni Storm and all the power she's accumulated over the years, defeating Mercedes to then lose to Athena. I think it would do excellent for Athena. And just in general, I think Athena's rollout, much overdue rollout to AEW and the main audience, it has been very good. I can't fault AEW in what they've done. Like, what we're seeing is someone that knows they should have been here years ago. Someone that knows, like, you know, you've kept me in the Ring of Honor on a platform where I've honed my craft for sure, but like, I was above this when I arrived here. Like, and she has just been so good. The whole act, her and Billy, they're just so good together, and they're tangling with somebody that is also a very, very good act. So it's like everyone can just be as silly as each other, sort of thing. I think the rollout has almost been exemplar to a state where they should see what they're doing with Athena and how she's, you know, taking this opportunity and look to do it with others. I think if they crowned her champion, it's gonna be a big wow. Like, you know, they're really kind of believing in it. So I would love to see it happen. I'd love to see it happen. I'm not done with Tony either as champion, so that's why I'm really caught in the middle of this. But just to kind of say, like, you know, we've pushed this person forward through the Casino Gauntlet. She's won that. She's featured on Collision. She's featured on Dynamite, and now she beats the champion at what would be one of her biggest shows. And, you know,
easily,
like their PLEs in the stateside, you know, they've been, in terms of attendance and stuff, they've been kind of middle of the road more time. They're obviously All In was very big for them. And then the majority of them are probably in and around the 10,000 seater, you know, 10,000 capacity. This will be the best part of 20 to 25,000 people in O2, sold out sort of thing. So this will be a very big crowning moment if they do it, sort of thing. So I don't know which way it's going to go, honestly, but I'm looking forward to it regardless.
Mex mentioned the brilliance of both of their characters, and we talked about earlier about Seth Rollins and his dedication to, you know, his character. These two ladies are the epitome of that in terms of what we see, what they've been given, you know, them kind of making the most of the opportunities, or even sometimes the lack of opportunities that they've had. Gerard, just how important does this one feel? Because we talked about, you know, Tony and Mercedes leading up to All In, but I feel as though in terms of character, in-ring ability, presence, all the rest of it, this match feels as though it should be bigger. Do you think the same thing?
I do. I think, you know, we looked at All In being dubbed AEW's largest event of the year. And so that seemed to be where a match like this should happen. What I think is interesting here is we actually have in the AEW universe multiple people that can give us this big fight feel. You know, you've got Mercedes and Tony, but lurking back there is the longest reigning champion of any gender in Ring of Honor. You cannot ignore that, you know, given the history of Ring of Honor and given the work that Athena's done. So to see Athena brought in right at the top, giving her this program, allowing her to earn her way by winning the Casino Gauntlet match, and now she gets this program, I think it's fantastic. I think it's certainly a massive match, And it's tough because you had six belts Monet on that end, but the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion on the other. For Toni Storm, if she defeats Athena, it's hard not to call Toni Storm the #1 wrestler in the world, given what Mercedes has done and what Athena has done. Same for Athena. If Athena beats Toni and Toni beat Mercedes, we got the same type of thing. So just by virtue of that, this becomes, I think, the biggest women's match for AEW all year, if not in history, because of what Athena brings to the table. And they would do really well to try to bill it that way. Though I think the problem is trying to present Athena that way after you just presented Mercedes that way. And does that make Mercedes look bad if now this suddenly is the biggest women's match in the history of the company? Either way, I think we know that it is, because it's the opportunity for Athena to finally be viewed as the top women's wrestler in the world. The length of the reign in Ring of Honor alone is enough, but the problem is there weren't enough eyes on it to be able to validate it. But now I think we've got this particular scenario where you've got these two women. It is a big match. I think it is absolutely as big as the match with Mercedes. You could call it bigger for other reasons. You could call it the same for other reasons. Either way, it is wildly significant. My only question is, why are we calling this pay-per-view Forbidden Door? Because nobody's walking through any sort of door here. The Ring of Honor AEW door is anything but forbidden. And I haven't seen anybody from anywhere else added to this card that makes you go, oh, they're coming from another company. They've infused CMLL so much. There's nobody from New Japan that has been involved so far. So I don't know.
I mean, they've still got, what is it, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, we got a couple weeks.
Somebody
open the door.
Just short of 3 weeks. Somebody needs to open the door already. It's still possible. Of course, the side entrance of ROH has already been opened. But yeah, all the rest of them are just other rooms in the same place, to be honest.
Yeah.
Tony Khan's gonna start singing that Bruno Mars song. I'm gonna leave the door open.
That part.
This door's no longer forbidden. I'm just gonna leave it open, and whoever wants to come join the party, just come.
Just walk in, just walk in, mate. Just walk in.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's crazy. It's crazy. But also, talking of New Japan, of course, we know that, one of New Japan's greatest ever stars, obviously now with AEW, that being, my gosh, I've forgotten his name.
Okada.
Wow, Okada. Wow, how did I forget his name? That's weird. Okada will be facing, of course, Swerve Strickland. Gerard, what are your thoughts on this match? And what the possible outcome could be, and how do we keep the intrigue for the next 3 weeks for this match?
I think it's interesting. One of the challenges with this is such a new championship that it doesn't really have the kind of lineage, like you were still trying to, put some gravitas on the international championship and the continental championship. So calling it the unified championship, okay. I think really strangely enough, the bigger win here isn't the championship, but the potential match itself. You got Swerve, who certainly has become top of the food chain at AEW. I don't think anybody will question that at all. Okada, hard to beat this man. Again, held that Continental Championship for well over a year before merging it. Won the Continental Classic. He's Okada, right? So, and he just beat, of course, Kenny Omega at All In. So I think the match itself has potential to be a match of the year candidate with these two styles going against each other. It's hard to say who could win this, because on one hand, Okada wins because he's Okada and he's got the Don Callis family, and the Young Bucks are trying to get back at Swerve for, you know, losing their EVP position. The other side of this is Swerve wins to really take all of the power away from the Elite. Not only is the EVP situation gone, but now the last bit of the crown jewel of the Elite is gone as well, because there's no championship involved. So it could go either way. It just depends on which story they want to tell. But I think the win in all of this will be the match itself, because these two are going to give us something very, very special. And I love that it's happening on an international stage.
For sure. Next, do you feel as though there's a need for Swerve to win in order to, you know, elevate, magnify this new position that he has as an EVP in AEW?
I'm very glad you asked me this question, because I've been kind of, as I do, overanalyze things, and Swerve has lost a lot of his big matches recently. Obviously, October, was it last year, or sorry, before that, maybe September or so, when he done All In London, when he lost the title to Danielson.
Oh yeah, August.
Right? August.
August. Sorry. Since then, like, I'm not saying he's been losing a lot, because he hasn't. He's won like a couple of big tag matches and stuff. Obviously, he just won at All In, that's just passed. But singles matches, whether they're on Dynamite and or pay-per-view, which have been of some weight, he has lost them. He lost to Ricochet amongst that feud. He lost to Bobby Lashley in that feud. He lost to Moxley for the title on pay-per-view. Time limit draw, I think, with Will Ospreay. He hasn't done a lot of big match winning recently. And it just makes me think, okay, he's obviously entered a space where it doesn't matter if he doesn't win, because he's still up there. And this is going to be a great feud, and, you know, a great opportunity to him to go against someone that's got this kind of international recognition, and we hail Okada, you know. So yeah, this would be great. But it's just like, I don't think he's going to win it. Like, I genuinely don't. I think it'll be a great match, but Okada will retain the championship. And it's just like, how many of these big moments, big losses will pass him by? And at what point do fans start thinking, or it becomes obvious, yeah, he's done a lot of big match losses recently. Like, when are we going to pay this off, or when are we going to get back to Swerve Strickland, the champion? And they've created this other belt in terms of this unified one, and they're saying it's another top title. It's a bit confusing the way they're outlaying this title, because Okada still is carrying around the international title and the continental title. We've had the conversation about AEW and titles, so I won't say more than that. But like, yeah, like what other things can he sink his teeth into to kind of be that kind of big singles match wrestler with wins? Or do wins and losses not matter? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, for me, this makes sense to me. Whether it makes sense to AEW is a completely different thing. But what you're saying, for me, means that he should win. You know, he's gone all this time with not winning, you know, the bigger matches, the bigger singles matches, as you said, that carry weight, all that kind of stuff. So I think this one would be significant. Okada's held the belt, you know, okay, the Continental for however long, for a very long time. Also, it gives AEW a chance, and whether they do this or not is another thing altogether, but to kind of get rid of the other two belts that have been unified. Why they're still there, I don't know. But it gives them a chance to do that with Swerve just holding the one. You know what I mean? So there's that as well. Again, adding to the fact that he's now an EVP. He's now on his own because Ospreay's out for a bit of time as well. So to me, it makes sense. It then adds even more upset for the Bucks and whoever else. There's people that can challenge him just for that reason alone, on top of your Ricochets and whoever else who's kind of just swimming around, you know, that kind of upper mid-card, you know, space. So I think for me, it makes more sense there are more reasons that it makes more sense for Swerve to win. But at the same time, AEW is AEW. Some of the stuff just doesn't make sense. As in WWE as well. This ain't no tribalism thing. But, you know, it's just one of those things. It's hard to determine who should win because there are still other things on the Okada side that would then make sense too. So it's a good place to be, but it's kind of like, yeah, for me, it just makes a little bit more sense for Swerve.
I've said this about Ospreay as well. Like Ospreay, he'll go around and call himself the best wrestler in the world. On commentary, they'll call him the best wrestler in the world. But then every big match, he doesn't win. So at some point, like I understand he's putting people over, he doesn't need the title and all of those other cliche things we say as fans. But at some point, this guy has to prove he's the best in the world and win a title. You see what I mean?
Right.
And I feel like this is where we're coming to get with Swerve as well.
Definitely. Quickly before the show goes off, I want to talk about this other opportunities as well that we're seeing for our people. TNA, of course, Gerard's rant about the whole TNA NXT thing being one-sided, or people thinking it's one-sided, has clearly come to fruition because we are seeing the makings of this NXT TNA war with, a few people kind of throwing their names in the hat of people who will bring back the titles to TNA. One of them being Moose. Moose has, of course, pinned Trick Williams in a 6-man tag match and now faces Trick Williams at Emergence in a couple of weeks. I believe it's 15th of August, I believe it is. Yeah. So, Moose, has he got a chance, or does he fall short again against an NXT superstar? Oh, it sounds so bad when I say it like that. Damn. Wow.
It's going to get tricky. I'm interested to see if Moose will have the rest of the system working with him. Will he feel like he can take out this young whippersnapper that is Trick Williams? Trick has backup. He's got backup in a few places, whether it's in NXT and High Rise, or if it's First Class over in TNA. He's got backup, which Trick needs and deserves. So I think, I'm surprised because I thought Moose was going to go away after a while, after losing the X Division Championship. He kind of hinted that he was going to take some time off, heal his body up, et cetera, et cetera. So I was surprised to see him back in the picture. But if this is that move, either way, we're in Trick NA, and I'm here for it.
And this is the worrying part for me, because I don't feel as though, one, it's the right platform. I feel it's going to be too early for Trick Williams to lose, and I don't want Moose to be in that position. If it was a Mustafa Ali, if it was an Eric Young, if it was someone else, Frankie Kazarian even, like, cool, fine, no problem. It just doesn't feel right that it's Moose, and especially after he said what he said after losing the X Division Championship, I thought it was going to be he disappears for a bit. Everyone else challenges Trick Williams, doesn't quite win, comes close, blah, 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 and then Moose comes and saves the day. I don't think this is Moose saving the day right now. It's too early for that to happen. So
here's the thing, though. Where this makes sense is, remember, we all said that this Trick Williams run has to feature veterans and established stars to ultimately make him better. Moose is perfect for that. I mean, think about what that match with Moose and Obafemi did, right? Yeah. So I think this is going to happen, but I think the guy who's going to come and save TNA is not Moose. It's Mike Santana.
Yeah.
So because of that, we're going to run through all of these TNA guys who thought they could get the job done. Joe Hendry and Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian and whoever else wants to line themselves up for it. And when we get to that point where it's Mike Santana time, then it's going to be all right. This is really, if you think about this, this is kind of the Invasion 2001, 2002. Yep. The only thing here is the Invasion there had kind of what was left of WCW. It didn't have the big names of WCW. No Nash, no Hall, no Goldberg, none of those guys. You have TNA at the best version of itself right now. And they're fighting, I think, the future of WWE, of course, in NXT. So this is going to be a great space. And again, for it to be played where TNA is the hero and WWE is the villain, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But Trick Williams retains, no doubt about that.
I mean, there could be another way that we see this. You know, we said we expect to take time off. We know that in terms of the TNA schedule, it's usually, you know, they film 4 to 5 weeks within a weekend or within a week. So there could still be a space where Moose probably loses and then he takes his time off, possibly. Another person who we wasn't too sure about whether he's going to stick around Slammiversary was Cedric Alexander. We can clearly see now, we know that the match is already set now for him versus Leon Slater for the X Division Championship. I imagine Leon Slater comes away with a win. Mex, how important is it for the young Leon Slater to add a name like Cedric Alexander to his list of people he's retained the championship against?
It's like you are reading what's happening in my life. So I actually had the opportunity to interview Leon Slater, and it's going to be on my channel tomorrow. Nice. Leon Slater has said that it's important for him to beat Cedric Alexander. He wants to be a fighting champion. Yeah. And of course, he's got one eye on that NXT Forbidden Door and who can possibly come through it, sort of thing. Obviously, he faced Cedric Alexander in a triple threat match, I think last week, and came out on top. That was the first title defense, and Cedric has since obviously said that he wants like a one-on-one match, hence why we're here at Emergence next week. I think he is someone that is super confident. He was saying that, you know, he thinks that Cedric Alexander, his best days are behind him. And I told the young OG, the youngest in charge, I told him you have to calm down with that one. Like Cedric he still got it. But he goes, no, I admit he still got it, but his best days are behind him. So, you know, it's almost like I have to prove myself, and he's getting high praise from all corners. And yeah, he said that he's just another one that he has to knock down and keep going. So yeah, the interview, thank you for the opportunity to plug. The interview will be on my channel next tomorrow, hopefully, if I can get it all done tonight. And he is someone that is just super confident. Like, this is someone that, like he says, has been prepped in for this since he was 9 years old. Wow. The boy is 21 next month. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, I think him first Cedric is going to be brilliant as a match, but just because of the confidence that he's exuding, Leon Slater keeps the title for me.
And this is the thing, like he's in a very good position in terms of facing Cedric Alexander, because he is someone that still has it. And yes, his best years are behind him, but he can still give you a match and give you a run for your money, and it's not obvious, or there's still a possibility that Cedric comes out as a winner. You know, there's nothing to say, oh, there's no way Cedric can be. He can. We don't think it's going to happen, but he can. And for that, for Leon Slater to have that on his resume is crazy. A former WWE Cruiserweight champion who won the Cruiserweight Championship at WrestleMania. Like, there's very few. You know what I mean? The only people, like, even if it was an AJ Styles, you could argue that, well, AJ Styles doesn't wrestle the same way he did in his TNA days, blah, blah, blah. You could do all of that. You can think of other great X Division champions of the past and say a very similar thing. As much as Cedric isn't a former X Division champion, he's a former Cruiserweight champion WWE, and he could still go. So it is a very, very good scenario for Leon Slater to be in. And as we say, you know, he, as well as we, are very confident that he comes away with a win from that. Gerard, I'm going to give you this last segment to go off on. We now know that Bishop Khan won at Arche 10, defeating Shug D, 600 plus day reign, and is now the new World African Diaspora World Champion. How significant is this win for Khan and it being Khan as well?
It's extremely significant for so many reasons. I mean, you have Khan, who is born in Cameroon. He's a Cameroonian prince. And so, someone actually from the continent of Africa to represent the Pan-African World Diaspora Championship is significant. Defeating Shug D after a 650-day reign is significant. He's only the third person to hold this championship behind Shug D and, of course, Trish Adora. And I think you could make the argument that it is the most high-profiled wrestler to hold this championship, as Khan is on our television screens every single week now with his role with Ricochet. So it's a major move. You look at someone like Khan, and Khan looks like he's supposed to be a wrestler. He looks like the kind of guy you have in movies. He's the kind of guy you make action figures with. He's the guy whose poster you put on the wall. He looks like AI come to life. That's Khan, and so now he's the guy that represents not only the Pan-African World Championship, but you could argue one of the biggest championships in all of black wrestling right now. So this is a major, major moment. And to do it at Ashe speaks volumes. It's the first time that championship has changed hands outside of Fight Club Pro. So this is a big deal. It speaks to how the championship has grown. Of course, it is a world-recognized championship by Pro Wrestling Illustrated, so it's a legitimate world title. And it's a big moment for Khan. Khan, who we've primarily seen in tag team spaces, the longest reigning six-man champion in Ring of Honor history, now has a singles championship to his credit. And so I think the sky is the limit for what Khan can do with this championship. I'll be intrigued to see where he gets to take the title. It's an incredible move. I certainly could see this as something that is defended internationally. Just great opportunities, I think, for Khan. More great stories to be told. And it was a phenomenal match between he and Shug D. Shout out to Shug D. What a great championship run that he had, 650 days. He held that title well, and now we're in a brand new era, the era of Khan. And I think this could be very, very dangerous for anyone who opposes him, because you look at Khan and you go, I'm not sure if I can take that guy. And that's a guy who you want to represent this prestigious world championship.
Let me ask you just one last question on the championship itself. So you mentioned that Khan is only the third person to hold the championship, and that is since its inception 5 years ago. Trish Adora held it for over 900 days, I believe.
Or like 1,300 days. Yeah, it was.
Something like that. It was a very long time, and then of course Shug D 650 days. Do you see Khan holding that championship for a long time in a very similar way, or do you feel as though there's maybe a chance for it to be different with Khan, and maybe other people kind of over time, multiple people hold it over time?
It's interesting because obviously you've had two very lengthy reigns with this championship. I think what he has the potential to do is to have the kinds of matches that make you go, I need to pay attention to this championship. There's a certain light that's just around Khan, and it's obviously because of his aura, because of who he is, and because of the fact that we've seen him on our television screens for the last few years, that makes you go, okay, I got to stand up and pay attention to this guy. Think about if Khan shows up at an independent show to defend that championship. He's a guy who's on TV that automatically brings more eyes to the product, brings more eyes to this championship. So wherever Khan goes, because of his television exposure, he automatically brings more exposure to that championship. Now the question becomes, okay, who does he end up in the ring against? It obviously raises the stock of whoever gets in the ring with him. You just cannot have the average Joe get in the ring with Khan. and make it look like this guy can beat Khan, because you have to be somebody special to beat Khan. So there's that. Then there's the question of who in the world could be the guy to take the title off of Khan. Don't know, you know. So this has potential to be a lengthy title reign. I think I'm more interested in the amount of title defenses and the caliber of matches that happen with this, because those have the potential to put the Pan-African World Championship on the map. I think Shug D had a number of fantastic matches. I just think back to, you know, the match he had last February with Caprice Coleman, which was one for the ages. And, you know, the caliber of matches that Shug D had while holding that championship definitely made the title feel more prestigious. You know, we just talked about that with Cody and with John Cena over the weekend. The caliber of match they had made the championship feel that much more important. So I think Khan has the opportunity to do that with whoever you put him in the ring against, now knowing that whoever gets in the ring with him is now getting in the ring with a weekly televised talent. So it automatically upgrades what people view and how people view the championship.
I'll just add, that like I think we mentioned maybe a couple months ago that this should happen for Khan. Like, you know, he looks, like we said, he looks like a pro wrestler. He looks very believable as a champion. Like, I think it's super important for that belt not to just become like a trinket, you know, that has a nice name and stuff, that he takes on the indies. And it's funny that now that he's got this opportunity with the title, obviously he's getting a lot more in terms of AEW Dynamite time. And I can understand that maybe you don't want to then go on the indies and risk your well-being and stuff like that, doing extra dates, because now you finally kind of got your big break on Dynamite. But I think it's important for his own status to build up that title, to build up himself. I think it's, for some promotions, it could be like an easy diversity tick box, like you have the Pan-African champion going up against, I don't know, another black guy or whatever, and you know, sorry to put it like that, but yeah, and then they can just have a good match. Khan could do some character stuff from this as well. Like, I just feel like the possibilities are endless, and through that, AEW can see, right, this guy's working. He's really working on himself, on that championship. Yes, he's in a tag team for us over here, but, you know, maybe once we decide to disband this tag team or this faction with Ricochet, you know, this is someone that we can trust in certain positions, and he's built a bit of a name for himself, and people like him and people want to see more for him. Like, I do feel like, and this is from an outsider's point of view, that, you know, I'm trying to keep up with indies happening in another country and stuff like that. That belt at times, apart from Ashay, that's really given it that platform, I feel that belt sometimes has been a bit invisible, especially to us over here. So I feel like this is, like Gerard was saying, someone that's on TV that can use the weight in his name, that he works for AEW. He's on TV more regularly now to really do something with this title and, you know, make it like a really big player. He can play his part in making it a decent level belt on the indies, and maybe it's then for someone else to take the baton and then move on with it and do more, if it's not going to be him. But yeah, I just want to see him do that for himself and for the title.
And this is my conclusion on this as well, in the sense where, you know, he is also signed to AEW, so he's not going to be doing the multiple indie shows as much as Shug D did. But unfortunately, when Shug D was doing all of the things that he was doing, unless you were fully in tune with the indies, you wouldn't know what's going on. You wouldn't know the amount of matches, even the caliber of matches, even sometimes the caliber of opponents that he was going up against, because it just wasn't there. So I feel as though Khan has the opportunity to raise the level or the prestigiousness of the championship, or especially the visibility of it. But at the same time, I still feel as though it might be a relatively short-term thing. And I say relatively compared to, obviously, the last two reigns. But it gives someone else then a chance, someone else who's maybe up and coming, who's been on the indies for a while, who's kind of like in between the indies and maybe AEW as well. to also then become a champion and do the same thing and whatnot. So I think there are more opportunities here, or more possibilities or avenues this can go down than with the previous two champions as well. So they're in a very good position. Either way it goes, I think it's going to be a good thing if everyone kind of plays their part in the way that they need to. So, and it's another reason why I wanted to mention it as well. There's other stuff that we missed out because we didn't have a show last week, but I thought this one kind of needed some kind of space and time because I feel as though there could be a massive shift in the visibility of the championship and the importance of it as well. So hopefully we see that happen. Speaking of weekly televised talent, Mex, let us know where they can find you on all spaces.
That's great.
You're too kind. Yeah, WrestleManiac UK, man, on all social platforms, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Like I mentioned, interview with Leon Slater should be out on my YouTube tomorrow, hopefully. And yeah, rest things for my chats with the man them. All things WWE will be on Gorilla Position as well.
Perfect. Say his name, he shall appear. But also, Gerard, where else can we find you?
You can find me at Bonafide across all of the social spaces, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X. You can find me there. Again, our work with Ashe Wrestling is at AsheWrestling.com. Our last two shows are on the Ashe Wrestling YouTube channel. That's Return of the King and Ashe 10. We're gearing up for Ashe 11, which will be September the 6th, where we will crown the inaugural Ashe Wrestling Women's Champion in a fatal four-way match, which should be very, very special. In addition to that, you can check me out, of course, with Southern Honor. A big show with Southern Honor this Friday, so be on the lookout for that. And all of our Southern Honor content is on IWTV. Of course, my work with the Nightmare Factory is on the Nightmare Factory YouTube channel as well. And again, shout out to, I guess, the boss, Cody, the new WWE champion. Again, check me out at Bonafide for that and much more.
And also a quick shout out to Isis Reed as well. Nightmare Factory.
Yes.
Who won her first championship, only 19 years old. Phenomenal prodigy talent. Yeah, amazing. If you don't know who she is, go and find her and check her out. You can also, of course, you can find us here every single week on a Tuesday, 6 p.m. British time, 2 a.m. Eastern, wherever else you are, work it out. And if you don't want to do that, you can find us obviously whenever you want. We are on YouTube on demand. Of course, you can find me, the only place you need to find me, which is Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram. And we will see you again next time.